Good morning. Welcome to Axiom Flux News with myself, PJ, and Dom. Today's date's the 6th of February 2015, and I'm going to start us off here with an addendum to the Taiwan family survives Trans-Asia plane crash after nervous father asked to switch seats. The dad heard a noise before takeoff, which made him suspicious that something was wrong, so he swapped seats to the other side of the plane. A nervy father who felt something was not right before the doomed Trans-Asia flight took off saved his family by asking staff if he could swap seats. Ling Ming Wei and his young family survived the crash that has so far claimed 32 lives, with search efforts continuing in Taipei. They were excited about going on holiday, but when a noise made Lin feel nervous just before takeoff, he requested that his family could move from the left side of the plane to the right side. The left side of the plane was the most severely damaged in the crash. Dai Bi-chin, a friend of the family who was visiting them in hospital, said the family originally sat in the heavily damaged left side, but Ling Mingwei felt uneasy after he heard noises before taking off and requested to switch seats. I guess you're all aware of the video of the incident, but if not, then for those that haven't seen it, I'm going to show it you now.
基隆河是有涨潮一个情况，因此你可以看到呢，这个复兴航空在断了几节之后呢，这个有部分的机头的部分呢是有埋在水里的状况，而且呢，现在水位呢似乎呢是有越来越高的一个情况，因此呢，消防队员是赶紧的来启动这个破坏锏，要来破坏这个窗户。您可以看到现场这个我们远调的画面里面可以看到消防队员他们的。
There were 53 passengers and 5 crew aboard the plane when it clipped a bridge shortly after taking flight in Taipei, leaving Lin having to fight his way out of the plane's wreckage. He was forced to search through the debris to find his toddler in the Keelung River. After managing to emerge from the plane, he began mouth-to-mouth with his child before handing him over to rescue workers. He told Taiwan newspaper Liberty Times, "He is my only child. I absolutely have to save his life. I can't lose him." Meanwhile, a whistleblower has claimed that the pilot had previously complained about engine abnormalities on the same plane. A claim published in Liberty Times also states that Trans-Asia failed to carry out a full inspection of the plane after the pilot voiced his concerns. Trans-Asia have denied the allegation. Rescue efforts are continuing in the aftermath of the crash, with 11 still missing. So that's the latest on the latest flight crash with the Trans-Asia plane. I'll bring you more as it comes in on that one. Onto another one now. This is a BBC. They've come out with this: e-cigarettes may harm the lungs and immune system. Apparently scientists found small amounts of toxic chemicals in e-cigarette vapor. E-cigarettes contain some toxic chemicals and are not a safe alternative to smoking tobacco, US research suggests. In experiments on mice, scientists found that e-cigarette vapor could harm the lungs and make them more susceptible to respiratory infections. The PLOS-1 study has also found traces of free radical toxins similar to those found in cigarette smoke. A lung charity said more research on the health impacts of vaping was needed. There has been debate over the safety of e-cigarettes since they were introduced. Although they are generally thought to be less harmful than smoking real cigarettes because they contain no tobacco, they do still contain the addictive chemical nicotine. However, This study, which looked at the effects of e-cigarette vapor on mice, says it still appeared to damage the lungs. So, what are the harmful effects? Thomas Susan, lead author of an assistant scientist in the Department of Environmental Health Sciences at Johns Hopkins University, he said e-cigarettes vapor alone produced mild effects on the lungs, including inflammation and protein damage. However, when this exposure was followed by a bacterial or viral infection, the harmful effects of e-cigarette exposure became even more pronounced. When the study divided mice into two groups and exposed one group to vapor from e-cigarettes for 2 weeks, it found that the mice in the exposed group were not as good at clearing the bacteria from their lungs. As a result, the viral infection led them losing increasing amounts of weight, which in some cases killed the mice. This was because they had a compromised immune system and could not fight off the infection. So what's inside an e-cigarette then? For those that aren't familiar, you've got your LED light, your battery, you've got your voltage control and your atomizer with your heating coil, then you've got your vaporizing chamber and the nicotine cartridge. The scientists said further research in people with a lung disease called chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD for short, was needed to see how they were affected by switching from cigarettes to e-cigarettes. The study also discovered the presence of free radicals in e-cigarette vapor, although at 1% of the level found in real cigarettes. These free radicals are highly reactive toxins which can damage DNA or other molecules within cells, leading to cell death. Dr. Susan said he was surprised by the finding considering the fact that e-cigarettes do not produce combustion products. Granted, it's 100 times lower than cigarette smoke, but it's still a high number of free radicals that can potentially damage cells. So it's 1% level, but it's 100 times lower. Okay. Low toxic effect. Tom Pruitt, the Chief Scientific Officer for ECITA, which stands for the Electronic Cigarette Trade Industry Association, criticized the way the research was conducted. He said the mice were exposed to a vapor dose intended for humans and not mice, and the cartomizers in the e-cigarettes were not changed often enough in the study, which would expose the mice to significant amounts of thermal degradation products. He added, in reality this research indicates that for people using the product as intended, e-cigarettes really do offer significant harm reduction compared with smoking, and appear to have a remarkably low toxic effect. Another one, Dr. Penny Woods, the Chief Executive of the British Lung Foundation, have said, while there is still little doubt that e-cigarettes are far less harmful than regular cigarettes, this study in mice is yet another reminder of the lack of conclusive evidence currently available on the long-term health impact of vaping in humans. She said more research should be conducted on e-cigarette use by people with COPD. Quitting smoking is the most effective way in which someone living with COPD can slow the progression of their disease. With as many as 25,000 people dying of smoking-related COPD in the UK each year, greater certainty is urgently needed over whether e-cigarettes are safe to use by COPD patients looking to quit smoking. Among the wider population, we know many smokers have found e-cigarettes a useful aid to quitting. However, until such time as more research has clarified the long-term health impacts of vaping, we wouldn't advise their use by non-smokers. So, some mixed thoughts there. The next one. Who, what, why, how does Google's autocomplete censor predictions? Google's predictions for how can I join before and after being contacted by the BBC. People in the UK and US were being offered ISIS in quotes as one of the top suggestions when typing in the words in quote, how can I join? Google does send some search suggestions, so why was this one allowed through? Asked Justin Parkinson. As of 9 AM GMT on Thursday, if you entered how can I join into Google in the UK, the search engine, using its autocomplete predictor, offered several suggestions. First was the police, second the Illuminati, and third a union. The fourth suggestion was ISIS, also known as Islamic State, IS or ISIL, the jihadist organization, which controls large areas of Iraq and Syria, has reportedly recruited more than 1,000 people from the UK to fight for it. But Google, alerted to the autocomplete options by the BBC, had by 10:30 GMT removed ISIS as one of the suggestions. Danny Sullivan, founding editor of the specialist news website Search Engine Land, says ISIS was also offered as a choice by autocomplete. When "How can I join" is typed into Google in California, when he tried it, it came second, after the Illuminati, and ahead of Disney's Club 33, and KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. ISIS is known as a highly effective user of social media, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, with which it spreads its message and disseminates pictures and videos, encouraging its followers to do the same. The group and its supporters have also reportedly used video games, leaflets, and videos to recruit. Google says autocomplete's algorithm-based suggestions are based on a number of factors, including the popularity of search terms. It looks for 200 unique signals or clues that make it possible to guess what you might really be looking for, including one's geographical region. Relevant search terms individuals have used in the past can influence the choices offered. Google has previously removed certain words from autocomplete suggestions, including swearing and some sexual language, on grounds of taste or legality. We periodically update our systems to improve search, so the terms that appear in autocomplete may change over time, a spokesman says. We exclude only a narrow set of search queries, such as those related to pornography, violence, hate speech, and copyright infringement. Last month, the UK and US pledged to work jointly to prevent the spread of extremist ideologies. It may be that people are simply trying to get into Google for research purposes to find out about ISIS, rather than simply wanting to join it themselves, says Sullivan. But the reason we're seeing ISIS on autocomplete is the number of people typing in "How can I join ISIS?" Any would-be jihadist won't learn much that is useful. The search brings back mostly mainstream media articles about IS and its recruitment methods. No shit. So, basically guys, not like you're not already aware, but I just came up with an idea that's suggested to me by many people, and just put random things in Google, things that, you know, just normal things, but rare things that you won't probably ever look for, like how to bake a cake, or, you know, just flood your Google each day, every day, just chuck something in it, something normal, you know, like how do I learn how to swim, or anything, just to throw Google off track. See what that does to him. That's a good idea. Okay, moving on. Flu vaccine barely effective against the main viral strain, sorry. This year's seasonal flu vaccine is barely able to protect people from the main strain of flu being spread in the UK, health officials say. Doctors are being urged to use antiviral drugs quickly to protect vulnerable patients. Evidence shows the vaccine is stopping only 3 out of every 100 vaccinated people from developing symptoms. But Public Health England says people should still get vaccinated to protect against other strains of flu. Flu is a constantly shifting target, and that makes it difficult to develop a vaccine. It is why a new jab is needed each year. 12 months ago, the World Health Organization settled on the 3 most likely strains of flu that would be circulating this winter. But one of them has since mutated so significantly that the vaccine seems to offer little protection. It works in just 3 out of every 100 people. A flu vaccine normally works in 50 out of every 100. Right. Deadly. The strain in question, H3N2, is also a particular worry as it primarily kills the elderly. There have been outbreaks in care homes, and overall there has been a higher than expected number of deaths in elderly people this year. Professor Nick Finn from Public Health England told the BBC, "We have seen an increase in excess deaths, probably the biggest increase we've seen since 2008 and 2009. So I'm sure that a significant contribution to this will have been the vaccine not being as effective as it usually is." Okay. Public Health England reached the conclusion after a study on 1,314 patients hospitalised with flu in the UK. Similar levels of viral mutation have been reported in the United States and also in Canada. Public Health England has already said that this is the worst flu season out of the past 3 years, but is circulating at nowhere near epidemic levels. But here we go. Get vaccinated. You must get a pointless vaccination. It is imperative. Dr. Richard Peabody, the head of flu surveillance at Public Health England, said, "Throughout this last decade, there has generally been a good match between the strains of flu in the vaccine and those that subsequently circulate. So it's crucial that these results do not discourage people in at-risk groups from having flu vaccinations now or in the future." He said the vaccine would still protect against swine flu and influenza B, both of which yet circulate this season, so he urged at-risk people to get the vaccination. He added, "Our findings also mean that the early use of antivirals to treat and help prevent serious cases of flu in the vulnerable patients is even more important this season." The Deputy Chief Medical Officer John Watson said, "The latest data shows that levels of flu are generally decreasing in the UK. We do see drift in the flu virus from time to time, but even so, I want to reassure people that it is still the best overall way to protect yourself and your family from flu, along with good hand hygiene. Antiviral drugs are available and effective, and doctors should prescribe them for those at greater risk of becoming seriously ill due to flu." So there you go. Another article being bashed out by the BBC, basically saying that this pointless vaccine is still worth taking, and it's apparently the only thing that can really do much good, or any good, if any good at all, completely disregarding these natural things you can go out and find, in the colloidal silver for sure. But there you go. Expected from the BBC. I hope. This one, 3B junior pop star in coma after helium stunt. A 12-year-old member of the 25-strong group is in hospital after falling unconscious during a stunt on a Japanese TV show. A member of the Japanese pop group 3B Junior has been left in a coma after inhaling helium during a stunt on a TV show, according to the broadcaster. The 12-year-old girl is part of the 25-strong collective of 10 to 16-year-olds and was one of the 5 youngsters taking part in a variety show on the 28th of January. She was inhaling helium from a canister as part of a game when she fell unconscious. The girl was taken to a hospital in Tokyo, with media reports claiming she was found to have suffered an embolism in the blood supply to her brain. A spokesman for Asahi, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name right, told the AFP news agency on Thursday there are signs of recovery, but she is still not fully fit. The girl's name has not been revealed because she is a minor. The TV Asahi apologized for the stunt and launched an internal investigation. The channel said the gas canister was marked for adult use only. Alright. Shows in Japan often involve people taking part in dangerous or humiliating tasks. In 2012, a popular comedian broke his back while jumping into a swimming pool as part of a TV program. Deaths have been recorded after people have inhaled helium. The UK Public Health Agency warns that it deprives vital organs of essential oxygen and can cause dizziness, headache and suffocation. So, you're probably aware of the Japanese stunt TV programs like
I've seen a lot of them. There's a lot of
like
they do a lot of
Ninja
shows
Warrior.
really dangerous in that.
Yeah, they're famous for
Japan,
it.
especially Japan, because you find them all on YouTube.
Well, now it's the young children now. Apparently, you're supposed to be aware that it's dangerous after you've read it, you know, and it said it's for adult use only, but no common sense comes in before to tell you that. Kids
I mean, it should really be for adult use only. It should be because people have died from inhaling helium.
Yeah. There you go. I think I've got one more article. We paramedics save lives, but NHS cuts have stretched us to breaking point. The secret paramedic. Time-driven targets are too few staff mean the public is in danger. This week it was reported that 1 in 10 paramedic posts is empty, with many staff leaving their jobs for something less stressful. This doesn't surprise me. In this job, you get treated like a robot. Your health and well-being is completely disregarded. I always wanted to be a paramedic, and the job has given me the skills to help people who are in need, and to save lives. No 2 days are the same. One moment you're dealing with someone who has had a stroke, the next with someone with a broken limb. That part of the job is really satisfying, but since the 1980s, when I started, our call volume has risen drastically. Before we used to do 5 or 6 jobs a day, now we are doing 11 or 12, so that's more than double. On our shifts, 5 hours without a break is the norm, and we usually go 6 to 7 hours. Basic things like going to the toilet are set aside, as emergency calls obviously take priority. The situation often feels unsafe because we aren't eating properly, our minds aren't working properly, and we've become dehydrated. We are so busy that I know crews who have been on the road for 12 hours without a break. Just as we clear the job and hand the patient over to the hospital, another one comes in. It's becoming diabolical. The workload far exceeds the number of staff we have. Our rosters are currently being reviewed, resources reconsidered. The service is cutting back at certain times, like nights and weekends. It's not increasing the number of vehicles we have, and is putting less qualified people on shifts to fill the gaps, while private companies are hiring a under contracts to do our work, we are being cut back. This makes us feel extremely worried about the people we serve. Because of NHS cuts, the public are being put in very dangerous situations. Sometimes we are stuck outside a hospital with a patient, for instance, because there are no beds available. We are running on the bare minimum all the time. There are times I've considered leaving the profession, like so many others, but I love arriving on a call and knowing I can help someone. The confidence that patients have in you is indescribable. That sense of purpose is what makes me put my uniform on every day. But I know many people who have left the profession because they are fed up with the way they're being treated. Statistics are hard to come by, but discussions with colleagues lead me to believe that the suicide rate among people who work in the emergency services is going up. This may be partly because people don't have the chance to debrief after difficult calls to discuss what exactly went wrong. This is a job where you might see someone who has had a cardiac arrest and the drugs you give them don't work. There is nothing you can do. It's that person's time to pass away. You are then faced with the family of the deceased and you try to console them. Then you finish that job, pack your equipment back into the van and move on to the next job, which could be, say, a woman in labour. So you go in minutes from tending to a loss of life to responding to a birth, and you know full well that if you do something wrong, it could affect that child for the rest of their life. There's pressure on you from the previous job and pressure in the current job, and because there aren't enough of us, those pressures build up. If there's time, you can sit down and talk with the person you are working alongside and discuss what happened on a call. This is known as debrief. But if emergency calls are coming in thick and fast, you don't have the option. You might discuss a difficult call out when you finally get time at the end of the shift, but often there just isn't time. There is a number given which you can call if necessary, but if it's a bad job, you don't want to speak to a random person for moral support. After bad jobs, debriefs used to be the norm, but nowadays they don't happen unless you specifically request them. Another problem is our 8-minute target. When a 999 call is classified as life-threatening, we have to get to the patient 8 minutes after it is placed. We are told that we have to achieve at least 65% of the time, but there is no clinical evidence to support this specific limit. And what is defined as an emergency varies across the country. This leads to extraordinary situation in which our response to a call can be deemed a success, even if the patient dies. Yet, if we arrive at 8 minutes and 1 second and save a person's life, this is marked down as a failure. The clinical outcomes of what we do seem to be irrelevant. The focus is on targets, not saving lives. I'm not saying targets are bad, but what we need are clinically proven targets, rather than time-driven targets that have no clinical relevance. Ill health has caused some of the people I know to give up, whether it's problem with mental health and depression, or physical problems relating to lifting elderly people who have fallen over. We are saving lives. How much are we worth? The secret paramedic was talking to a Reed Uller. So there you go. The secret paramedic has spoken. So I think they do a bloody good job. They're not even given stab vests, bless them. Yeah, these are the ones that need looking after, I think. Don't know what your thoughts is on that, Dom, if you've got any. Do you think the NHS should really be exempt from these cuts?
Well, yeah, I mean, they should be, yeah.
Yeah, we should find
be
other
exempt.
means
I mean,
to,
health should be a priority.
Yeah. I mean, you think with all these unemployed these days, even if they didn't have that much training, you could still put them in, just cleaning up or just give them little jobs to do, just to help, whether it's a bit more portering. Um,
Yeah.
I'm sure people would rather do that because they know some will possibly lose his NHS and it'd go private and
There's also a lot of preventable call-outs, like a lot of people who are drunk,
yeah.
people who have been fighting, when they're going to call out to them. I mean, there wouldn't really be that many if everyone was sensible. There wouldn't really be that many. It'd probably be like that guy said from 1980s, where you used to have 5 or 6 calls a day. If everyone was sensible, you'd probably be about 5 or 6 calls a day.
Well, do you think that goes back to responsibility then? Are you not entitled to work, all week and then go out and have a piss up?
Well, yeah, but you just got to be sensible about it, don't you?
Yeah,
You're not get
respond.
so drunk, but it's like, but really, it's what's in your mentality. If you're an aggressive person anyway, and you're drinking, that aggressiveness is going to come out. If
Yeah.
you, if you're, that's what happens really. If you've got someone who uses common sense and they're all right when they're not drunk, and then they have a drink, they're
Yeah.
usually all right and they get home safe.
Well,
They don't
me
end up in
me
no A&E.
personally, I think the very least we can all do is just acknowledge these people more. Just even if it's just a smile or a little wave, as you see them driving by, it might make them feel a bit more better because you never know which job they've just been to. And like this article says, they're not immune from situations like that. They still
I
get
mean,
affected by it.
they could set up a company, Joe, where there's volunteers, drivers, and they all have full training, and see if they can deal with workload as well, workload at others.
Well, we know they want it
Like
privatised,
St
don't
John,
they
like
then?
St
So,
John's ambulance, like them, they're volunteers, and something like that, but a bit bigger, quite a few of them, not just having one.
only time I see St John's now is on a football ground when there's a match.
Yeah, that's what things they tend to say, things like that.
Yeah.
But we've got community support officers like police, community support, so we should have community NHS ambulance workers.
Yeah. We've got some cities have got ambassadors as well walking around and other voluntary workers. So I think something definitely needs to be done later or never really. If we leave it. Right, that's my articles done wrapped up. Have you got anything for this morning?
Yeah, it's about turn now, is it?
Yep, I'll just put you on. Go on then.
Yeah, well, first up, back over to Rolf Harris, who was sentenced in July 2014 to 5 years and 9 months. Back in the papers again, who's been quizzed over some more sex offences. The former entertainer Rolf Harris has been interviewed under caution by police investigating sex offences. Scotland Yard did not name him, but said an 84-year-old was questioned at a police station in Stafford. That's nailed on, it's Rolf Harris. He was questioned by detectives from Operation U-Tree, the investigation into sexual abuse allegations that have arisen since Jimmy Savile was accused. He was interviewed on Tuesday and Wednesday. Operation U-Tree has 3 strands. One concerns Savile's crimes, whilst another relates to allegations against Savile and others. The third strand, under which Mr. Harris was questioned, concentrates on accusations unconnected to the Savile investigations, which emerged as a result of the publicity surrounding the late DJ. Several well-known public figures have been jailed throughout trial, being brought under the U-Tree investigations. Gary Glitter was found guilty of historical sex abuse on Thursday, while PR figure Max Clifford and former BBC radio presenter Chris Denning were both successively prosecuted. Ex-BBC Radio 1 host David Lee Travis was given a suspended sentence for indecent assault following a similar investigation. Mr. Harris has appeared on TV screens as a child entertainer, songwriter and entertainer. I remember him when I was younger on the drawings he used to do in Animal Hospital, is it? Animal Hospital, he did that for about 10 years or longer. He is also an artist and painted a portrait of the Queen to mark her 80th birthday in 2006. I remember that painting. During his career, he was made an OBE, MBE, and CBE. Yeah, so that's Rolf Harris under question again under further sex offences. What do you think of this poll? You got any take on it?
So he's not being officially named, so this is just people
He's not
suggesting
been
that
officially
it's
named,
him.
but it's definitely him, and he's an 84-year-old who's been
Right.
questioned and police
It appears to be him. I won't really like to say it's definitely him just yet because it's his first I've looked into it, but yeah. Is it expected? Is it a
Well,
surprise?
I was shocked when he first got arrested. I thought, no, it can't be Rolf Harris. He's not like
If
that. Because I
if
remember
if
when I was
people
younger, I liked him, mate.
if people ever watched him when he were on Piers Morgan Life Stories, he's basically telling everybody. I remember watching that and he's saying, he goes back in the day, he goes he had women all over him. He goes he couldn't, he couldn't get them off. So he basically were talking about it on Piers Morgan,
Yeah.
and he did look, a bit guilty on his show. So yeah,
Oh, that's Rolf Harris. Moving on. Similar story. Gary Glitters trial.
oh
Singer
another
guilty of
one.
historical sex abuse. Being found guilty. Well, it all started in 1997 when he took his laptop in for repair at PC World, and they found child pornography on his laptop. In 1999, he was sentenced to 4 months after downloading thousands of items of child pornography. So this is Gary Glitter.
Paul Gadd, yeah, his real name. Well, his corporate name. That's him back in the day. I'm not getting no audio on that, Dom, just the image. But I'm sure that's probably for best. I'm not going to say the listeners are really good when are going to be listening to his songs. Apparently he's denied it yet again, said it's all a conspiracy. I just mentioned that because you're not really going to be picking it up in any of this video. Yeah.
Well, that's a bit of video of it. Do you say you couldn't get the audio for it?
Yeah, I didn't hear no audio. It was very, very quiet. I could hear it in background, but not loud enough to work
That's
out
what
what.
you're up to.
Yeah.
Yes,
Obviously,
Gary Glitter has been found guilty of historical sex abuse against 3 young girls between 1975 and 1980. He's 70-year-old now, real name Paul Gadd.
do you know on the just going off topic a little bit, Dominic? I saw a little article about the bin lorry crash, and it says the driver, he can't remember anything, can't remember the.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw something
Yeah,
about that.
very
Glasgow bin lorry deaths. Driver has no memory of crash.
yeah, no
We'll
memories of
switch
it.
over to that chat now, actually.
Yeah,
Glasgow
so
bin.
I've not heard notes since, so I was just wondering.
Well, the driver of a council bin lorry which carried out a control in Glasgow city centre, killing 6 people, has said he has no memory of the crash. His name's Harry Clark and he's 58.
Mm.
He said that
That
he
must be
understands
terrible.
three
That.
families and those who were injured who wanted answers, but he said he had been unconscious and could not remember anything. He said he has no heart problem before the crash, and his health had not improved much since then. So I don't
It
know.
sounds like some narcolepsy or something. Just gone to sleep. I mean, that must be terrible. That it's like going to bed, Dominic, and then you're getting woken up and told that you've killed so many. That must be horrible to live with. Just
Yeah, that's what I
he's
mean.
gone to work
You get your bins emptied and you comes a bin lorry coming on street. Has it gone through what has it gone onto a path? Is that how it's
I'm not. I think it did. Yeah, it rode path and then ended up smashing into some sort of building, or whatever it were. But yeah, he must be.
These are people who have died here.
Oh. Yeah, so what they're saying then is
Jack Sweeney, this one. Lorraine Sweeney.
he's not being prosecuted or
Jack
anything like that then, Dom, has he?
and
Has he been charged with anything, or is he just...
Well, I don't think he'll get charged. I mean, if he's just that he's got no memory, there's not much they can do, can they?
No. He's got enough to live with now.
They're not going to send him to jail. I mean, they're going to put it down as an accident, aren't they?
Mm.
That's what it looks like. The Crown Office said it will issue an update by the end of February on timescales for any criminal proceedings or fatal accident inquiry. Well, most likely be a fatal accident inquiry.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the story on that one.
Right, any more?
Well, I can go to that flu vaccine actually. They're saying it's barely effective.
I covered that one.
People are having this.
Have
you covered this one?
Yeah, I did that one. Yeah.
Well, finally then, McGarvey fall.
Oh, wow.
A photo of Robert McGarvey falling down the stairs has spread like wildfire online.
I bet it has.
90-year-old. There's a lot of memes on him. Let's have a look at his fall.
Here he is, look.
90-year-old. Oops.
Ooh.
Apparently, he's told got told the photographers to delete all images of him falling down, and apparently wants it off the internet too. But it's already on now. It's too late for him.
He don't feel embarrassed about falling downstairs, does he? I mean, surely he's got other things to...
He's bit jokes, pictures on him.
He's got other things to be embarrassed about.
Running away. One ear. Gets up there, the 5-second rule. He's all spreading like wildfire. These Comrade Bob did not fall, he simply descended to earth at a rapid rate. that was his one of his pause that. The football pitch. Injuring one that plays. Surfing.
You want some to call? If that's not art, I don't know what in.
Yeah. Well, that's it tonight for me.
Good stuff, Dom. Nice articles there. A nice, funny article to finish us on. Okay, guys, that's about it for this morning. So do join us again on the next Flux News for Axiom Curb Live. Till then, take care and look after yourself.